So this is an excellent comment that I wanted to talk about a little bit further into a video, and so I'm going to do that now. I'm sorry it took so long. I've been quite busy. Now, the thing I really want to address is El-Sisi and his Western owners. And the reason why I wanted to talk about that is for the last year, I have been continuing my decolonization journey, I guess. And I've been really breaking down on who I am as a Masriya, who the Masri identity is. I've had to make peace with the, essentially the extinction of the motherland Masri identity in many ways. And if you're not sure what I'm referring to, you can always go back to my pinned videos. One of them I speak specifically about watching the extinction of my people. But part of this decolonial journey is understanding and identifying who are we as people, who are we as ethnic and tribal heritages, and who are we as an identity, and what identity parts are ours, and what parts are imported through trade, and what parts were forced imports on us through colonialism. And when we look at who owns Masr today, we can talk about who owns the resources and we can talk about who owns the leadership, okay? When it comes to owning the resources, because let me tell you that Masriyin are poor because we are actively having our resources extracted all the time and stolen at no profit or reparations paid to the indigenous people of Masr. If you look it up, I think it's something like 89% of all resource extracting companies are Canadian. So Canadians, please fuck off with your "we're so nice," okay? None of what you've done ever has ever been a peace mission. They've all been colonial missions. The remainder is often American or British. What I've personally seen in Masr has been British and American owned, but I have also seen Canadian owned. And it wouldn't surprise me that there's more and more of those Canadian companies developing in Masr over the American companies at this point. But there's also one category of ownership that we refuse to discuss, and it's the one that probably imports the most of our most valuable resource, which is our human resources. Because don't forget that immigration is a form of human trafficking. It's just legal and coercive. And that's why people don't feel the effects of it as much as they would an unconsenting human trafficking experience. But in terms of where do Masriyin get imported to the most to do work, you're talking a few big work environments. You're talking Kuwait. You're talking Qatar. You're talking Bahrain. You're talking Oman. You're talking United Arab Emirates. And everybody's favorite. You're talking about KSA. And some people in the past have argued that Saudia is a pawn to the United States. Those people would be wrong. Gulf and Arab nations are above the regulations set forth by international law. And Saudia has been wanting to make that clear for a very, very long time. And they have never set a better precedent than Khashoggi. And I want you all to understand this and reflect on this because, and this is not for the commenter at all. I receive these kinds of comments very commonly or very often, and I have been wanting to talk about this for a long time. But people like myself, when we speak out on these things, we are well aware of the consequences. Khashoggi was well aware of the consequences and risked going back home to Saudi. And this was a prime example, or a prime opportunity, for the royal family to make it clear that the only ones that own them are themselves. So again, many people would say that the Gulf and Arab nations are westernized. They're not, they're Arabized. Because they are colonizers. They are colonial entities. And they continue to operate on their terms this entire time. This entire time. And it's one of the reasons why I vehemently reject the title of Arab. Because as a North African, and specifically Masriya, not only am I genetically not Arab, the Arab are quite literally my oppressors, my colonizers, my slave masters. All this to say, when discussing situations like what is happening to the Levantine states, the North African states, or any other state, never be shocked that the people behind it are Al Saudi, are Qatar, are Oman, are Bahrain, are Al Emirat, are Kuwait. Because they are colonizers at this point. They have been for a very long time. They have been capitalizing off of our resources and dehumanizing us based on the poverty that our people experience due to their extortions. We continue to be enslaved by those countries today, both figuratively in the human trafficking sense of immigration, but also quite literally in human trafficking. Many African countries do. Many other Asian countries do. And please be aware of the people who speak out about these things are in fact almost permanently stopping ourselves from ever going back home. Because you may not realize what happened that day, but we pay attention to Khashoggi because in each of us is a Khashoggi. That message was to both us and the United States and NATO nations of the level of magnitude and power that this nation holds above us. And even growing up, I've watched the dynamic between the Saudiin and the Masriin, and there's no respect there. It's one of the prime reasons why I didn't believe that September 11th happened the way that they claimed it did, because they said an Egyptian worked with a Saudi Arabian. And I was like, ha! That wouldn't work. Anyway, food for thought for anybody who is interested in actually learning about that part of the world. I don't know what that part is. Borders seem to change. Everything changes. But if you want to know some actual history, look it up. Or hit me up and we can discuss further. Thank you again to the commenter.